We've got an opponent, we've got a schedule, and maybe for the Oilers, we have a significant opportunity. Second round hockey is coming, and I'll tell you all about it, but first, please hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow marks day one of round two, which was, of course, the stage that claimed Edmonton's Stanley Cup hopes last season, with the Oilers, of course, last season going up against the Pacific Division winning Vegas Golden Knights, and this will be the third consecutive year that Edmonton end up with the Pacific Division champion in the second round. It was Calgary in 2022, it was Vegas last year, and now the third second round suitor in 3 years for the Oilers is the Vancouver Canucks, and that is a team whose presence in the playoffs at this point seemed an impossibility at this time last year, but it's a team whose meteoric rise this season will mean that the Edmonton Oilers really should not be taking them lightly. Much, if not all, of the pre-series analysis are concluding with the prediction that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win this series. But the truth is, Vancouver and Edmonton aren't actually all that different. Both teams boast stronger forward cores than defensive groups. Both teams make up for what looks like an on-paper below-average defense. And both teams have a amazing coach, at least so far this season, playing very similar defensive systems in their own zone to make up for maybe a little bit of a weak defense. Both Vancouver and Edmonton maintain very tight formations to clog the net front area and take away both shooting and passing lanes, with the center iceman especially being counted on to guard the slot area. Likewise, both teams run very similar systems in both the neutral zone and on the forecheck. When both teams are being attacked in transition, they're both going to revert to that 1-2-2 structure. That's what you're going to see on the screen here, the furthest forward up front forechecking, then two forwards behind him, and then of course the two defensemen back there. Vancouver holds that structure as they forecheck forward, which is a relatively passive approach and shouldn't give the Oilers too much of a headache, with good back support from the forwards. These are all things I've noticed from watching both teams in the first round, but Bruce Turlock of OilersNation.com not only explains all of these in more detail, but he does an excellent job showing visual examples as well in his series preview piece. I will link that in the description. Anyways, all of that to say the two teams, they aren't that different. You can obviously point to the superior high-end collection of offensive firepower for the Edmonton Oilers. No team in the NHL is able to deploy a forward duo better than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but save for that, the roster composition and tactics of both teams tell you that this is a relatively even matchup. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you both one big thing that I think will win the Oilers the series and one big thing that could lose the Oilers the series. Okay, I'll preface this by saying that this isn't a necessity for the Oilers to win. This could very well not happen, and the Oilers could still very easily win the series, but my X factor for Edmonton to win the series is winning in goal, specifically Stuart Skinner winning the goaltending battle. Here's something that you don't have to follow the Canucks to know. Thatcher Demko is a very elite goaltender. And here's something that every Oilers fan knows. A big reason for the Edmonton Oilers' second round loss to Vegas last year was how superior Adin Hill was to Stuart Skinner. So coming into this series, the Demko versus Skinner dynamic might tilt the way of the Vancouver Canucks, but Vancouver won't have Thatcher Demko, at least to start this series, and will look to youngster Artur Shilovs to lead the way in the series for them. While Shilovs' 9 previous games of NHL experience would have caused many to underestimate him when he started Game 4 in Nashville, he was sensational to finish off that series for the Canucks. He went 2-1-0 with a 1.7 goals against average and a .938 save percentage. He may have come out of nowhere to some, but anyone who pays attention to international hockey will have heard of Artur Shilovs. At last year's World Championships, Shilovs was unbelievable. Co-host Latvia, with him at the helm, beat Czechia, Norway, Slovenia, and Kazakhstan in the group stage before beating Sweden in the quarterfinals. They lost to Canada in the semis, but they shocked the Americans 4-3 in the bronze medal game to capture the country's first double IHF medal. Shilovs posted a .921 save percentage and was named tournament MVP. That was the first time a player who had lost in the semifinals had won the MVP of that tournament since Patrick Kane did it back in 2018. So it's very obvious that simply calling Shilovs an AHL goaltender is doing the very capable goaltender a massive disservice. But as far as how impressive Shilovs has been, he's never faced a team like the Oilers, and he's never faced a player like Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl for that matter, and quite frankly, he's never faced a power play like the one he'll face on this series. It's not fair to say that Shilovs is going to buckle under the pressure or is going to struggle, but it's also definitely premature to say he'll be able to go shot for shot with the powerhouse that is the Edmonton Oilers offense, and that's kind of my point, he's a question mark, not for lack of talent, but because the proof of concept isn't really there yet. We've seen rookie goaltenders go on runs in the playoffs. We've seen it happen more than once in the last 10 years, but for the Vancouver Canucks, it's going to be something they're going to have to rely on thanks to an injury rather than something they're choosing to rely on, like, say, Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues back in 2019. On the Oilers side of things, Stuart Skinner was borderline abysmal in Edmonton's 4 losses to Vegas in the second round last season, but his first round this season should give the Edmonton Oilers a very appropriate level of confidence, especially in the last 3 games, during which he made a total of 82 saves on 86 shots. That includes a 33-save shutout, winning Edmonton Game 4 basically single-handedly. That was a crucial victory to go up 3-1 in the series. Since that playoff loss against Vegas last year, Skinner has been a lot better in between the pipes for the Edmonton Oilers, and I believe that Edmonton's first round against Los Angeles was kind of the culmination of Skinner's progress this season. He's progressively looked more confident and been way more consistent all season long, and while it might have been optimistic to expect Skinner to outplay a healthy Thatcher Demko, hoping for Skinner to outplay either Artur Shilovs or Casey DeSmith is something that the Oilers fans can and should expect, and is something I believe could very well win the series for the Edmonton Oilers. On to what has to happen for the Oilers to lose. Again, don't get me wrong, Edmonton could win or lose this series in spite of everything I say here, but one big thing that Vancouver have done well all season and during the first round against the Nashville Predators is find goals, and very opportunistically. The advanced statistics all season have said that the Canucks have scored well above their expected goals rate, and while many will see that and label Vancouver's success as unsustainable, the Canucks' ability to find a goal from anywhere and often find them from 2 specific situations help them succeed. Of those 2 situations, first, they tend to find a lot of offense in transition, and specifically through 2 of their best players. Captain Quinn Hughes is fantastic. Vancouver scored just 13 goals in 6 games against Nashville. Hughes had 5 points, and Vancouver's other top dog is JT Miller, who's been an ace in transitional play since he was way back with the New York Rangers. So Vancouver moved the puck up ice very well, and their transition from defense to attack often results in scoring chances on on-man rushes. The second way they score opportunistically very often is off the forecheck, like this, their Game 4 overtime winner against the Nashville Predators. Edmonton obviously is more often than not more offensive-minded. It's where the strength of the team is, but that could definitely pose some worries against a Canucks team who score plenty of goals from situations that you almost wouldn't expect them to. Of the 13 goals they scored in the first round series, they had 2 off the rush and 4 thanks to their play on the forecheck and moving the puck from along the boards into high danger scoring chances. Those 6 goals account for half of the ones that the Canucks actually put behind Jussi Saros. That omits, of course, their empty netter from Game 1. I haven't even mentioned the season series because at this point it's pretty far from relevant. Vancouver played and beat Edmonton thrice during their terrible start to the season under Jay Woodcroft, and they beat them once near the end of the year that was without Connor McDavid in the Oilers lineup. I do believe that season series don't often matter in the playoffs on the best of days, and I definitely don't think it matters here. Those were 2 completely different teams playing at least in 3 of the games, and of course, you had the omission of McDavid from the last one. Another question mark has to be the status of Thatcher Demko. Reports have been all over the place about the nature of his injury, his status, or a timeline for his return. Rick Tocchet has already confirmed he won't play in Game 1, and sticking on looking at the Oilers' opponent, we're going to have to look at Vancouver's second line, because Ilya Mikheyev, Elias Pettersson, and Nils Höglander were awful in the first round against Nashville. They were often suffocated by Colton Sissons' line, and you have JT Miller, Brock Besser, and Pia Suter as that first unit for the Vancouver Canucks, but if Edmonton can subdue Elias Pettersson, the man set to become the highest paid Vancouver Canuck in franchise history, that would very much bolster their chances as well. Vancouver have 3 very capable scoring lines, but they often use both the JT Miller line with Brock Besser as well as the Elias Lindholm line with Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua in positions to prioritize defense very often. It was Miller and Besser against the Forsberg line, and when they couldn't do that, it was Lindholm. So if the Edmonton Oilers end up splitting up Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl that's in this series, you're going to have likely Vancouver's 2 best offensive line focusing on playing defense. I doubt you're going to see Höglander or Mikheyev line up against either McDavid or Draisaitl. It's probably going to be the Miller line, and then it would be the Lindholm line. So if the Edmonton Oilers do that, and they continue to suppress Elias Pettersson, much like Nashville did in the first round, all of a sudden Vancouver's offense, which already only scored just over 2 goals a game in the first round, could be in more trouble. Obviously, this is all going to start tomorrow, and it's going to be a very exciting series between two Western rivals. First time since 1992 we've got a Vancouver-Edmonton playoff series. Thanks so much for watching.